So, John, welcome. Now, you've recently completed your tenure as the inaugural Schweitzer Fellow at Peterhouse. So, can you begin by describing your impressions of Peterhouse and Cambridge University? What stands out for you? For example, what were your insights on adapting to the unique lifestyle at Peterhouse?
Well, it's an extraordinary place. It's unlike anywhere that I've ever been before. Part of what makes it extraordinary is just the depth of the history there. This is the oldest uh, campus in the Cambridge system, and it is beautiful. It is beautifully designed. Uh, ancient stonework that is well kept up. There are uh, quads which are beautiful, and gardens which are beautifully kept up. Uh, and there's just a depth of history that was extraordinary to me. The the other thing that was made it really exciting was the depth of knowledge of the people who stay there and who come there regularly, and the conversations I was able to have with them. That's something quite rare too. Uh, every university has experts, but these folks are some of them are the top experts in their fields, and it was just wonderful to be able to ask questions of such people and have conversation with them.
So, talking of experts, can you briefly tell us about the independent research that you pursued during your fellowship?
So this is part of a long-term project that I had started on maybe a year earlier. I'm trying to develop a conception of the welfare of life on Earth. We don't have such a conception now. We have conceptions of animal welfare, but animals are a small portion of the tree of life. And we also have conceptions of environmental ethics, which deals with life at a higher level of abstraction. So we're talking about ecosystem integrity or biodiversity or those kinds of things, but not the welfare of individuals in environmental ethics. And I wanted to develop a conception that applied at the individual level. So we had a fuller picture of the the state of things, the state of the natural world, not just these high level notions like biodiversity.
Hmm. So, how did your lecture resonate with the Cambridge academic community?
Well, there seemed to be general interest in it. And from the questions that were asked after the lecture, I got a sense that people were listening very well, and they asked very difficult, very hard questions. Um, and the discussion was wonderful. So I very much enjoyed that, and I learned from the process of having these conversations with people who were willing to ask very difficult questions that, fortunately, most of them I had thought about, but it made me think more deeply.
I must say the Q&A session was absolutely fascinating at the end of your talk. So, has your interaction with this community influenced your perspective on environmental issues?
I think only to the extent that it has deepened what I had already thought. We have these tremendous global concerns about biodiversity, the biodiversity crisis, and the climate crisis. And everybody I talked to understood that. And so it wasn't a matter of trying to persuade anybody, but because I was talking to people in various fields, I got different uh, angles of approach to those problems and found that very fascinating. For example, I talked toward the end of the term a good bit with an engineer who's interested in ways of utilizing and moving heat around that require no inputs of energy, which I thought was really an interesting project and a hopeful project.
Fascinating. So, what do you consider to be the most valuable aspect of the Schweitzer Fellowship for applicants to the position in future?
Well, the opportunity to interact on a daily basis, if you want it, with the extraordinarily brilliant people to ask questions. For example, at lunch, you'd have people in all fields, various fields of academics, and you would sit next to somebody you didn't know often and just begin a conversation. And those were very illuminating. And so to ask questions across disciplines and hear other perspectives, that was really helpful to me.
Okay, so based on your experience at Cambridge, what advice would you offer to future Schweitzer Fellows?
The important thing is to have a well thought out project so that you know what you're aiming at when you get to Cambridge. The Schweitzer Institute is a wonderful uh, opportunity, but it's only an opportunity, and you have to bring to it a set of ideas and a project that you'll be able to make some significant advance on in the short space of a term. The term went very quickly for me, and I did manage to do the things that I had hoped to do, but it was a scramble to do all of that.
Good. Okay, so how has your experience at Peterhouse shaped your views on the role of academic institutions in addressing environmental challenges?
Well, it's you know the focus of the discussions I had with folks always came down to objective evidence-based thinking, in that sense it was so different from what you run into in just talking with people uh, uh, in ordinary life. There's a real concern with truth, which I think is absolutely fundamental to the academic endeavor, and not with all the frills. There was not a lot of ideology. There was just let's find out what's true, and that emphasis on evidence-based thinking was wonderful.
Okay, I've heard it said that the deeper you delve into truth, the more you enter the realms of paradox. And obviously, a lot of paradoxical thinking cannot be evidence-based. So do you think that it limits our investigations by being empirical and evidence-based all the time?
I think it grounds our investigations. There are paradoxical aspects to things. And because they're paradoxical, they're only paradoxical because we don't quite get how to deal with them. And that's the sort of cutting edge, the leading edge of inquiry. And uh, sometimes those paradoxes are resolved, and then knowledge expands.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, finally, how do you see the relevance of Schweitzer's ethical philosophy in addressing current environmental challenges?
It's absolutely relevant, and was absolutely central to my thinking in doing this project. Schweitzer himself was concerned with the welfare of life on Earth, and not just animals, not just ecosystems. He wasn't even thinking about in ecosystemic terms. He was concerned about the welfare of each individual living thing. But that, of course, as you mentioned, presents us with paradoxes, because you to to benefit one thing, you have to harm others. And so now you've got to everything has to eat, everything has to consume, uh, and and so uh, there's a tremendous uh, sense of responsibility and difficulty in trying to make decisions having to do with things like environmental policy and climate policy and so on. Uh,
Mm.
but uh, but I was I was and have always for a long time always been uh, guided by that notion that what we really need to aim for is the welfare of life, no matter how difficult it is to make those decisions.
Okay. All right, John, thank you so much. And thank you for bringing so much to the Schweitzer Fellowship. It's been a joy.
Thank you for this tremendous opportunity to be a part of this, and I very much appreciate it.